Hey everyone, Joe here. So in this video, we're going to be looking at the new Lines 2 update. So Lines 2 is just a great way of adding style dividers to your web page. You can add cool little glyphs. You can have a bunch of different styles. You can kind of slant stuff, right? So let's dive in and see how easy it is to use. So the simple example of lines is just simply a solid line on your page, right? But we can use the style setting to change that. So if you want dashed lines or dotted or double, there's a bunch of different styles of lines that you can use here. Now, by default, we have a horizontal. We'll look at vertical dividers in a little bit, but for right now, let's go through all these settings as a horizontal line. Next up we have the colors. We have the main color of our line, as well as some styles allow us to have an accent color. So as we see here, if we go into the extras, such as the double border, this gives us the ability to have an accent color. As we see in this example here, I have a blue line and a green line. And when we choose some of these styles, we get some extra options. So here in the double border, I have a padding, which is kind of like the spacing in between those two lines, right? Next up is we have the ability to have a gradient line, which is super cool. And this, as you see here, we have options to choose the different colors, right? And in this example here, I have the outside, basically the colors on the very far outside. They're fully transparent, so it kind of looks like the line fades into the page. Super slick. And the last style option here is a flare, which gives us these little kind of rounded flared ends at the end of the divider. It's kind of interesting. Now, the sizing options are pretty easy to understand. We have width and height options. Basically, if you don't want the divider to go the full width, you can basically change the width or height if it's a vertical line. The size is the thickness of your line. Now, some styles of lines, such as double, and when you use a double line, you kind of need to make it thicker, because if you don't, it just looks like a single line. So you kind of need to make it a thicker in order to see that. And then next is we have the ability to rotate. So we can obviously rotate. You can kind of skew the line a little bit. I personally like just, if you are going to do it, just do like 1 to 3 degrees. It kind of gives you just a very slight slant. Anything more is kind of very drastic. But then we have margins, which allows us to add basically spacing at the top and the bottom of the divider to give you a little bit of breathing room between your content sections. And last up is we can add content to our line, right? So here's a few different examples. Now here we have a glyph, and when we turn on line content, we have a lot of options similar to what we had above. We can rotate. You can customize the position. So as you see, if you don't want it centered, you kind of maybe this one is particularly offset. Okay. You can add padding. And then you also have to define the background color and the content color. So you're going to want to make sure that background color matches the background of your website. Okay. Now, this could cause problems if the background is maybe an image or a gradient. We only support solid backgrounds here. So yeah, you're going to want to make sure you set the background of the line content to be the same as your website background, or the background of the container that it's within. You can customize the content here. By default, it has this cool little glyph that is, just a standard character, but it looks kind of fun. But you can do other things, such as I have an emoji here. So you can add emojis in there and just put that straight inside of the content area. Next up is we can actually do HTML. So we have a lot of the same options here, but then we can actually type in our own HTML. So here we see I have an H3. So this is an interesting way to actually do headings and stuff like that. You can actually have, your section with the heading embedded directly in the little line, which is pretty nice. And then next is we have an option. I don't have a demo of it here, but we can go ahead and click stacks, and that gives us a stack drop zone. And then that basically, whatever we add into there will be overlaid on top of the line, which is pretty cool. So let's do a quick run through on vertical lines. So here I have a 3-column, and this is the 3-column stack from the starter pack, which is our free starter pack. Make sure you go check that out. And what I do is I have 2 content on the first column and the third column. And the second column, I throw in a line stack. Now, the starter pack, you go to your 3 columns, and then you make sure that vertical is set to stretch. And what that will do is when you set lines to be a vertical, what'll happen is it'll actually fill the entire area there. Okay, so Not all column stacks will support stretched and equalized columns. So if you're not using the starter pack, it also works in Foundation 6. But you can also use things like match height or maybe a static height stack to kind of set the height of what lines will be. Okay. And as you see here, you can't see all of the content inside edit mode, but if we preview this page, you'll see that we have a vertical line with our cool emoji in the middle, and it's perfectly aligned in the middle of our two content areas. And one last bit, if you are a Foundation 6 user, we have classes that can be applied directly to the line, as well as classes that can be applied to the content area if you're going to use the content options inside lines. So there we go. I hope you enjoy lines and you go out there and make your websites great.